Mastery is defined as achieving the highest level of skill and knowledge in a particular field or activity. But what isn't very well known is that the mastery of anything is a journey, not a destination. My name is Jacob Panisi. I'm the fitness director at Millsap's training facility. I'm joined with Brian Johnson, the head trainer at Millsap's training facility. Together, we created this podcast to be your guide as you navigate the journey of mastering motocross. Welcome to MX Mastery.
But at the end of the day, I do feel like I've had two careers, one from 2015 to 2019 and then another one from 22 to present time.
Well, and I would even say that just you as a person, you from 15 to 19, you were one type of person. That's when I first met you. I first met you back in 17, and I was only here for a summer. And that Jordan compared to who you are now, from 22 on, is totally different. And I think, obviously there's quite a few things. Obviously we all grow as we progress, and going through what you've been through, kind of shapes who you are. But you have completely defied the odds. How many people do you know that go from a factory team to not really having a ride and then end up back on arguably the best factory team that's out there right now? There's not very many guys that can say that they have done that.
Yeah, I mean, just factory to privateer back to factory. Most people, once they fall from that factory side, to basically a full privateer, team, then they don't make it back, because they just look at it like, this is a shit show, it's not organized, I don't have the parts, I don't have the motor, there's no way I can be competitive, and they just kind of dwell on the situation where, like you said, they had a stock bike. That's what they had. They were grinding, and I think, beyond the results, the reason he got the Star ride is because we do ride with Star. And they kind of saw what they had at the time. And, Star would come and ride. And, obviously I would have him ride with them, and do whatever they were going to do that day most of the time when they would come.
And at the beginning, whenever they were coming, I was on a stock bike. Yeah. I had a little bit of motor work done, but we didn't have exhaust yet. It looked stock. It sounded stock. It looked stock. It felt stock.
Yeah,
it definitely was as close to a stock engine package.
And, him being competitive, is still trying to beat the guys, and making some bad decisions sometimes. And I'd be like, come on, dude. Mess up in the turn, stock bike, still go for the triple, bounce his head off the bars a little bit. I'm like, This year we got to be better. We got to be better on that.
That's probably where the dent came from, my damn gas tank.
Maybe.
I'm riding your practice bike from that year.
But I think they saw just a little bit of his grit, and once you see that, because there was, I think even from Swanee, hearing stuff from somebody else, I don't know who I do know, but I'm not naming any names, put kind of a black cloud over him on how he works, until they kind of would see some of it. And now, being able to work with him, even the guys at Star, from Levi Kitchen or any of them, they're like, dude, this guy's a grinder, and it kind of brings just the whole team up, in certain ways.
That's one thing that even Colleen said, not to, try to fill your head with a bunch of hot air or anything, but
come on, baby.
Colleen and I were having a conversation. She's like, he absolutely elevated that team. That team, obviously Star is very good, and there's lots of really hard workers, and they're very fast. But adding you to the mix, I don't think people expected you to be such a serious guy that could work the way you do and go as fast as you do. And supercross compared to outdoors, obviously you've had, different results. But it's hard to even compare, really, because, I remember we were texting, and you were like, sweet prediction on your outdoor podcast, when we were doing our podcast episode talking about the outdoors coming up, and we kind of just gave our predictions on how we think it's going to go, and you're like, way to even mention me. And then that got me thinking, I'm like, well, you haven't done an outdoor season since I've been here. Maybe one or two rounds. So I'm like, honestly, I don't know. It's hard for me to make a prediction, but that was just that. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that necessarily elevated the team, but I do think that, you have they lost a lot of guys that were similar to me as far as like my work ethic and how I want to win everything. You know, like
it's hard, like you said, hard to say you elevated the
Yeah,
team when it's won everything
Yeah.
since
The team is
14
very
or
good.
15.
Yeah, I think like they're really good, but they've had guys, you know, like Cooper. Like I have never like worked with Cooper, like training with him wise, but you know, I've heard that he was a really hard worker. I heard that Nichols like was really, really hard, really fit, in shape. I mean, but you can see that as well. Like that doesn't just, I mean, look at everything that Nichols has went through and, you know, still continues to go through, but how good, you know, he is. And
no, he must be a grinder, right? Like,
yeah. And like you see that. And same with Christian, like Craig, like, you know, I trained with him for a few months last year whenever I started riding for the team, and like he's a completely different person than he was at least to me, like whenever we were on Geico.
Yeah, I could say the same thing. It wasn't that I didn't like him, but I just thought he was kind of, his demeanor, I thought like he put it off like maybe he was entitled to it, you know. And then once he started coming around here, you know, him, Paige, everybody in the whole family, like such a great family, you know. And
yeah.
You know,
I
definitely,
definitely,
it was maybe that I just never really sat down and talked to him, and I just kind of, you know, put that over him, you know, because, you know, his stepdad kind of had ownership in the team, you know, and it just kind of how he, you know, looked and acted at the time from an outside looking in, because I never really talked to him. And then, you know, ever since he's came here, he's the first guy to.
Father-in-law, not stepdad.
What?
Father-in-law, not
Oh,
stepdad.
yeah. Father-in-law. Sorry.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, and Christian, we didn't really, not that we didn't get along, but we didn't really do a lot together or anything whenever I was on Geico. But you know, I trained with him for a few months last year, and just we talked way more in the few months I trained with him last year than we did whenever we were both on Geico. And you know, he worked really hard. We'd go on bike rides, and I mean, the guys, I'm just training like it's the off season because I wasn't racing outdoors, and they're in the middle of outdoors, and we'd be racing on the road bikes, you know, like he'd be in the middle of the week racing on the road bike and stuff. So, and then, you know, you have guys like Jacob's same way, like he wants to win everything. Like we battle hard on the road, you know? So like, I think that, you know, maybe I somewhat filled one of those shoes of some of the guys that they lost over the past few years. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say I elevated the team, but I do try to set a good example for the younger guys on the team, and work hard and show them. You know, I think that as a kid, not a kid, but whenever I was pro, like I really didn't like the grind of gym and bike rides and all that. Like I didn't enjoy it much, but I enjoy it more now. Don't know why I do, but over the past, I'd say like 2-3 years, like I really started enjoying working out more and being more fit. And not that I wasn't fit before or I didn't do the work before, I just didn't like doing it, you know? Like I didn't, like if you told me to do something, or whoever I was training with told me to do something, like I would go and do it. No questions asked, I would do it. But I didn't like doing it. But now I see myself like wanting to do it and like putting more into it whenever I do it, you know. Like I did the work before, but it wasn't always like, not that it wasn't 100%, but like the fine details maybe I didn't pay attention to, where now I'm paying more attention to those fine details of.
Do you think that has to do with maybe you've started to see that it actually meant something, or it actually served a purpose? Like, did you notice that your fitness actually felt better because you were doing the long bike rides and doing the strength training? Like, do you think or maybe you just eventually
maybe
liked fitness a little better?
Maybe. I mean, you see guys, you know, like you see how hard some other guys work and stuff, you know, and like you see other sports, and you know, someone like Tom Brady, like everything that he does and how long he was able to play football for at such a high level. Like our sports are way different, but you know, I think that whenever you're younger, you feel like you can do it without doing you know,
well,
like you feel like you're invincible
all the way up till that
point.
point,
You feel like you're invincible, you know. So like you feel like I don't need to stretch today, or what, you know, what, like that's just one example. But maybe if I would have stretched a little more, maybe I wouldn't have gotten hurt so many times. Maybe not.
Yeah,
but like every little thing is important, because you don't know how it can really help you, right? And you start seeing that, you know, eating better, eating more consistent, all of those things, every little piece of the puzzle. And I would just say, I personally would say it comes with maturity. You get more, you mature, you understand it, you have had some times now you're a dad, so you're seeing when you are a little, you don't get to sleep, should I say, as much, and how much it affects you, So all of those things add up, I think, and you just...
Which sucks to hear as a trainer, because when you see these kids that don't want to work out, and you just think, just give them a few years. Give them a few
but
years,
but like you
understand.
said, I don't think it's that you don't want to work out. You never kind of...
No, some of these kids don't want to work out.
Yeah. I'm not going to say anything.
You can say it. Why? I'm just saying that for some of these kids, like, they just... It's exactly like what Jordan said. Like, you made it up to this point without it. They feel invincible.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily that I made it without it. I think it was more of like, it wasn't like Brian said, it's not that I didn't want to work out, but it was that like I wanted to do it and I wanted to do the work. But like, say I was on an hour bike ride, I'm 20 minutes in and I'm like, God, like, count, like, I have 20 minutes another 2 times to get to my hour.
That's only 10 minutes 4 times over.
Yeah, and just like really like dreading it, where now it's like I'm more like, all right, let's like focus on the power that I'm doing on the bike, or my heart rate, or whatever it is, like those little details to make it more fun or whatever, like whether it's on Zwift or anything like that, just trying to make it more fun. And I think
that's a really good point, because like this is really important. The fact that people that are high achievers or elite athletes that perform at the highest level in their sport, they are typically the people that are absolute savages at the basics. And they're really okay with monotonous work that is very boring, but they understand the importance of it. Like putting on, doing a 3-hour bike ride, for example, is not something the average person would want to do. But even though it's boring, and yes, it is low heart rate training, and maybe people don't feel like it has the same value as doing sprints or doing threshold work, it's doing those very basic things better than everybody else. That's what separates the good from the great. The people that are at the top are willing to be bored and just accept that, like, this is what I have to do if I want to get to where I want to be.
Yeah. Say so.
All right. So
I was thinking about something. I just like it. Just sorry.
If it comes to you, let me know.
I know. Yeah.
But I do have another question just about your experience with all the different teams, because with the different teams, not always, but they did come with some different trainers. And like I know you spent a little bit of time. Most of your time was here. You did go to Baker's for a while, right?
Yeah, like 3 months. Maybe.
It was just a few months, but in that time you got to experience Tyler. And I know you got to talk to, I don't know if Alden really worked with you a whole lot, but then now, you're with Swanee. Do you see anything between the different trainers and the places? You don't have to, get as shallow or deep as you want.
He's gonna do the old Brian move. Can you turn the mic off real quick? No.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
as shallow or deep as you want.
I think all of them, everything is hard work. It doesn't matter, not that it doesn't matter what you do. It does matter what you do as far as hard work, but, I went through 3 different, I guess you could maybe say 4, but 3 different trainers for the most part at MTF, where I worked with them for multiple years. You, Tony, and Clint. You guys all did things differently. I think that you're a mix between Tony and Clint a bit. And I like things from all of you guys. And then going to somewhere like whenever I trained with Tyler for a bit, it was a little bit more, I don't know, really why it was like this. I don't know if if it was his philosophy, like if he had science behind why he did it exactly this way, but it was more monotonous, more like kind of the same thing every day. Didn't seem like as much, not enthusiasm, but like kind of, what am I trying to say? Like not as creative, of a plan. And then, then I came back and worked with you, and I think that, you had a good combination of what Tony did, because you worked with Tony for a bit, and then you come from more of a educated background, like Clint did a little bit more, So I think that you had a mix there, and then now working with Swanee, it's a whole new aspect, because we work, like everyone on the team works together, like, so I think that right now that's one thing that like really pushes me on Star, is that like I'm working out with, Nate, Nick, Levi, J Coop, Styles, Dax, Haiden. Like we all want to win this weekend, like in the off season, like we all want to win whatever it is we're doing. Like we all have that mindset that we were talking about before. And I had that at years here at MTF, like especially younger years. But then I think as I got a little bit older, some of the guys left that we had that like competitive edge. New guys came in that had it, but it's just another level of training together whenever you have that many guys that can go out and win that weekend. I mean, you see, like I think everyone on the team that raced Supercross this year finished on the podium at least once. So that's
which is wild. Yeah, I mean
that's pretty.
That's putting good guys together.
Yeah, and like you said, you're competitive, so you're like, well, if he beats me off the track here, it might give him an edge on the track, right?
Yeah.
So it just kind of keeps that intensity high, and the young kids don't want old man Smith beating them, like this guy's a dad, or whoever it is, So it kind of,
if you ask them, they'll tell you I'm probably 35 or 36. But I think I'm that old.
You've also had a beard since you're like 15, so that doesn't really help you. Well, is there anything in your training? Because, like, one of the things you and I have had lots of long conversations about, the different aspects of different trainers and what they brought to the table, things you liked, things you didn't like. And I think that was one of my favorite things about working with you, is you weren't afraid to give feedback and ask questions. And, one of my biggest things, and I tell this to the guys all the time, that if they ask me, I will always have a why for what I'm asking you to do. Like, it's never going to be, I just pull things out of my butt and say we're doing this because I don't know what else to do. Like, I always have intentionality behind my programs. And, for someone like you would always be like, hey, I really like this, but I just feel like when I was working with Tyler or when I was working with Clint, we did this, and I just think you should be open to it, and maybe we should give it a shot. And, like, I'm always, like, I don't have that kind of pride where it's, like, my way or the highway. So I was always open to try things. But I think just you sharing the experience from all the different trainers and all the different people you've met and the different teams, like, I think that's really helped. It's really helped me selfishly. Like, it helped me be a better trainer just because your experiences became my experiences. So that was always really cool. But was there one thing, or is there anything that you've noticed over the years that, like, cycling has been really important, or swimming has been really important, strength training, or, is there anything that you've added to your program that has been game-changing? Or is there, just it's always just been the whole program and getting the right bike and getting the right people around you?
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole program. I mean, in our sport, I feel like you have to be so well-rounded. Like, you really have to have good cardio. Like, you can't do it without doing good cardio, like doing a lot of cardio.
Do you think it has to be cycling?
No, I don't think it has to be cycling, but I think that cycling's the easiest for us. Like, I can't run more than 3-4 miles, and I can't run 4 miles 2 days in a row, so which a lot of motocross guys are like that. Some of them can't run at all. So I think running is kind of like out of the question. It's like a base thing for us. I think swimming is good. It's a little bit harder to access. Not as practical. The swimming too, you can't get as long, I don't feel. I mean, you can if you want to sit in the pool for 2 hours, but might get a little old, and it's definitely different. But I think that swimming is important. I think that swimming can be a big help in a program. I think that cycling is just the easiest and most our sport, like as far as the position that you're in on the bike, using your legs a lot. And it's a lot easier because you can do it right from your house on a trainer. Like we can sit on the trainer and do Zwift all day long. Mm-hmm. You can go outside, you can mountain bike, you can, there's so many different things you can do on a bicycle. And you look at a lot of the guys that are really good at supercross have a bicycle background, whether BMX, skate park stuff, whatever it is. Like a lot of the guys that are good at supercross have that background. So I think that helps too. I think I might have missed the window on that. I think I should have started that stuff a little younger maybe. But for it to really make a difference in my supercross riding.
I think Brad's good on a bicycle though.
Yeah.
Really? I think he is, yeah.
Maybe. Well, maybe we need to get Brad on the supercross track.
No. Well, like even
Brad
the way
Smith.
the way that you are with like, everything else that we talk about that you're good at, like golf and all that. I mean, you look at a guy like Faulkner, he can do backflips on the little Razor scooters.
Yeah.
Like that feels random.
Yeah. Hayden's really good at stuff like that too.
A lot of those guys that are good like you said, in supercross are good on bicycles, or just athletic. I think that's the biggest thing, is getting, on trampolines and, in jumping into pools and doing flips and
climbing
doing
trees.
All that stuff, but like understanding, if you can do a flip, you kind of understand where the ground is too. Like there's a lot of advantages to that when you're crashing, to kind of be in a place that you kind of know when you're going to hit in a way. I think that can help. I wasn't a big flipper or anything like that, where Davey was very good at those things. I would say he was a little bit more relaxed when he was flying through the air flipping, because he was comfortable. He could do gainers, he can do all that stuff. So how is that not going to help you in a moment of when you're crashing, that you're comfortable with maybe putting yourself in a place that might help you when you land? Even
in the race that just happened where Hunter crashed and hurt his hand, there was somebody who got caught in the bike, and I'm sorry, I don't know who it is, but he got caught in the bike and him did a full flip, and then it flipped him back up to his feet, and he had the wherewithal to like land on his feet and just start walking away, and he started kind of grabbing his helmet. And if you would have put somebody who's not athletic and flipped them like that,
you don't want to get us started on flips.
I looked over at Jordan and he
both started laughing. I'm like,
I didn't even see you. I didn't even see you.
He knew what I was thinking. He knew I was gonna say something because you kind of put in.
I have no idea what's going on, so you guys just figure it out.
Jordan tells me when he was racing on 80s. This is
true story. It happened.
He was at Aonia Pass. Was it?
Pass, yeah.
He goes over and he goes into a rut. Right. He messes up.
There was a single. Let's
let him tell the story.
I'll let you. I'll tell the story. Right. So it was at a regional, pretty sure regional, and it rained a lot like the night before, so the track was really muddy. We're at the end of the day. It was practice day, like just practice all day. There was no racing. There was a single going into a turn. Okay, so like the single's like this. The rut on the other side is angled like this. So like most people were coming over it like pretty slow and funneling into it. Okay, so I'm coming over it, and I was a bigger kid on an 85. Like I felt pretty comfortable. I'm like jumping the single. Well, I misangled whenever I jumped. So I landed right into this rut with quite a bit of speed. Whenever I hit, I went over the bars, but I didn't let go of the bike. And I had enough momentum that my bike did a full front flip. And I held on. I was squeezing hard enough with my knees that I actually landed back on my bike. I did stall the bike. I had to start it, but I went back and I actually... You can look. Go.
He thinks he did a front flip on the track.
I did
it. Get this man in freestyle.
Hey, he didn't believe me. I called my dad. I said, Dad, what happened to Aonia passing on 85s? He said, you did a front flip, and I was like, yeah. I mean, have you seen the video of the guy on the quad at Loretta's that does the front flip?
I think he saw the guy.
No, this happened way before that, but it happened.
I haven't seen
quad.
The
quad. There's like, well, there used to be a tabletop like right by the pond. Like before the sweeper, and the guy endos on the quad, and he like does a full front flip and like keeps riding, and that's what happened to me, but on a dirt bike. And I did stall it, started it back up, kept going. Yeah. True story.
Wow.
Ninja
So
man.
sorry,
can't
I don't
teach
even
that.
know where you were what we were talking about for that, but yeah.
I was talking about athletic people flipping,
Yeah.
and you're the most
I think-
athletic out of all. You did a front flip in over race.
Yeah,
Can you do flips though, like in the pools and stuff?
yeah. I can't do gainer, but I can do regular flips on trampoline and stuff. But I think that one of the biggest things, and we've talked about this multiple times, is that I just spit everywhere. It's all
I'm
over
looking.
the
I'm like,
table.
you're gonna clean this up, right? All this water. everywhere.
Anyways, I've talked to you about this multiple times, and I think that whenever I first came to MTF, like this is like something that like helped me. I think at least with my personality, it really helped me. Was like we were very, very competitive. Like whenever I was a kid at MTF, like bike rides, stuff like that. Like I remember one year. And like Brian probably doesn't even know this, but one year whenever Clint was our trainer, like we would go on a lot of bike rides before Loretta's, like almost every day. And in South Georgia, there's tons of roadkill, like on bike rides on the road. And so we actually had on the whiteboard, we had like, so every roadkill animal was worth a certain amount of points if you jumped it. So like, if it was a squirrel, like it depended on like what it was, and the group came up like after you jumped it, like the group came up with
He went from a front flip. Now he's gonna tell you he bunny hopped a horse.
a horse. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but like depending on what it was, like you came up you came up with how many points it was, and like the first person got like, say it was a squirrel, a dead squirrel, like not very big. You might have got 10 points for it. For like the first person, the second person might have got 5, the third person got 3 points.
Mhm.
So, if the animal was alive, worth way more points. But, you know, like if we were like cycling, you're literally like that summer, like we were constantly like looking around like the line, and if there was something in the road, I mean, it might be a stick, but you didn't know what it was. You were sprinting, like it was a sprint to get to it. And like we did that, we had like, I mean, we would race to the stop ahead sign at the end of the ride. I mean, everything was a competition, you know? Like, I think that, like, as kids, like, that's an important, like, or not an important thing, but, like, that helps you work harder and not feel like you're working hard.
I would say it's
like,
important.
yeah.
Even like little kids, you want to run fast, tell them you're going to time them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like if you say I want you to do a threshold run, then they're going to look at you like you just pulled a head out of a hat.
Yeah, and I think that I think that like even now, like sometimes, you know, training has gotten more and more and more scientific, like over the years. I think, you know, I mean, whenever I first started training here, it was 2007. That's 16 years ago, you know, and so there was a lot less science as far as training goes, you know. So I think more and more it gets to like, okay, do this at this heart rate and just sit there and do it, you know, turn your brain off and do it, which is the most beneficial way maybe. But at the end of the day, like, you know, even at Star, like we do stuff where we race each other, like on bicycles or what, you know, like there's tons of stuff that we race and that we make a competition, like because we're competitive kids, like that's what pushes us, you know, that's what keeps it fun, that's what keeps you wanting to work hard. So yeah, I think that the competition aspect of it's a big part. I mean, on and off the track, like I mean, we always were doing stuff. It didn't matter what it was. Like,
and like you said,
thing.
That's what you knew. So, you know, you just worked as hard as you could.
Bring my water
You
back
know,
over here.
the entire time. You know, I was even talking to Liam Olaf's dad, Joe Olaf. I raced with him growing up, and we were talking about Barsha. Like, he's like, man, he would probably be good as a trainer when he's done, just because he has to be in such good shape to ride the way he does. You know, I mean, efficiency is not Justin Barsha. You know, he's just wide open, crazy, scrub, you know. And I would say a lot, I mean, you're a little bit the same way in a way, you know, how you ride. I wouldn't say you're as wild and crazy as him, but, you know, a lot of times you're not the most efficient on the track, you know, but you're just willing to grind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's something about just like going as hard as you can for as long as you can, like trying to beat someone else, you know, and just like pushing your limits just to like see what you, because you really don't know what you can do until you do that, you know, like you just.
Yeah, if you break everything to a science, like, oh, my heart rate's here, I can only make it at 5 minutes at this, at red zone this high, whatever it may be. But we all know, you brought up people like Tony, he was super in the mental side. You really tap into that mentality and just, go until basically you feel like, or you do pass out, right? And your body can do so much more than you actually think. Obviously Colleen buys into that huge, and there's so much truth to that, beyond the scientific side. When you just really, put forth the effort, you can't say if you go out there and you guys go on a bike ride and you do this a few times, it doesn't have to always be that, but you give it 100%, that still wasn't so much, there wasn't so much value in that, maybe even more value than, hey, we're going to all be at 150, because of this, that, or another, and we're going to build this side of things. I would say there's more value at times seeing who can't break, right? Like, yeah. I don't want that guy to beat me. I've got 40 minutes. I'm tired at 20, but I'm not giving up, yeah. And, it's not. So when you kind of tap into that in other areas, it's going to bring on, or transfer onto the bike as well.
Mm-hmm. You were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, I remember, doing, and I know you guys still do it, but, doing maxes back in the day, and, we did wall sit one time for, almost 30 minutes or something, and, so we had to start doing wall sit with 45s, and just, mm-hmm. stuff like that, but, you do a 2-minute wall sit in the middle of a workout with no weight, and you're dreading it, you're a minute and a half in, you're like, oh, when is this over? But then you make it a competition one day of how far you can go, and you make it 30 minutes, it's 2 minutes probably wasn't that bad,
Oh, definitely.
So I think that that's a big benefit of being, at a facility, or even now with me training with the Star guys, is that competition.
And you've done some of those challenges lately that have been very competitive, right? That people are probably like, why am I doing this? Especially the day before they have to ride, right? They feel so blown out, mm-hmm. But it benefited them so much, especially the guys that said, I don't care about tomorrow in the moment, right? They're in the moment.
You'll
right?
figure out how to get through.
Yeah, I'm gonna get through. Tomorrow isn't even in my thought, right? Yeah. I'm beating you, I'm beating everybody, and I'm winning this whatever challenge it is, and I'll worry about tomorrow when that comes, right? And I think there's so much value in that as an athlete and as a rider, whatever you're doing, right? You're in the moment. You're not so worried about tomorrow, where a lot of guys now, and even kids sometimes, they're worried about, well, how am I going to feel tomorrow, right? So they'll hold back in the gym at times because they want to feel good tomorrow. Everybody always wants to feel good every day, which when you're building is unrealistic, right? I don't think.
Yeah, that's why I got not upset, but I snipped at Austin pretty good, Austin Keller, because we were on the gate Thursday morning, and he hadn't even done his first moto yet.
He's still on this.
Yeah, so he's on the gate, hasn't done a single lap. He might have done a sight lap, and he sees me out there. He's like, "Hey, what's for gym this afternoon?" I'm like, "Dude, don't even ask me that stupid question. You're on the gate about to do a 20, a week before Loretta's. Why do you care what we're doing for gym this afternoon?"
Colleen said, "What would you say to your dog?" And then he's all worked up. Was I too hard on him?
Well, because if Colleen says something, it makes me think that I messed up. But his dad wasn't out there or anything. So, yeah. It is what it is. But, that's such a mentality thing, because even, I train by myself every day. I lift by myself. I do my cardio by myself. There's nobody there to push me except for me. And even when I'm going through my training, I have somebody else write my programs. I use their training app, and it just frees up so much mental energy for me so I can focus on the guys instead of training myself. And I won't even let myself look at the next exercise. If I'm doing something 3 sets of pull-up to failure, it says weighted pull-ups 3 times as many reps as you can get. I won't even let myself look at the next exercise until I'm done with this, because it doesn't matter. I know I'm going to do that. So why even take the mental energy away from what I'm doing to think about what I'm going to have to do next? Well, I'm going to be so tired for that exercise. I better save it. Just, I'll do a few less pull-ups because it'll mess up my deadlift.
What kind of questions did you ask when you were 11?
What kind of questions did I ask when I was 11? Probably was for gym.
Yeah.
But I'm not 11 anymore, damn it. So I can get mad at other kids for doing it.
You got to teach them a lesson.
Yeah, and I hope some of that stuff sticks. I try to share with them my experiences, and
I mean, that's how they learn, right? They're kids. They're going to learn. And that's where, Colleen, we do let some young kids in. You were one of the younger ones, and we do have a few that are a little younger right now than we normally would let in, just because they're kids, right? They're scatterbrains. They're, to keep them focused is so hard. And it's just, I mean, we grind here as far as work, as a 9-year-old or, 10-year-old, it's almost overwhelming to do what we do here.
Oh, definitely. Like we were talking about this, probably last month, and I have 10 and 11-year-olds here that can go run 4 miles. Find me another 10-year-old that can run 4 miles. I mean,
a lot.
No. No chance. I have never met a 10-year-old that can run 4 miles. I'm being dead serious. You guys know a 10-year-old that can run 4 miles?
How many 10-year-olds have you asked if they could run 4 miles?
All right, don't make it sound like I talked to a lot of little kids that aren't trained. But what I'm saying?
I would imagine quite a few can run.
But you should have seen me when I was 10. There's no chance. You really think you asked Cooper to go run 4 miles? Could he go run 4 miles?
My first day at MTF, we went for a bike ride, and like a road bike ride, and I went to the gym. I was super tired from the day, and I was like, Clint was the trainer, and I was like, do you think I should go on the bike ride? And he's like, well, are you tired? I was like, yeah. He's like, do you think you can make it through a bike ride? I was like, I mean, how I am, I'm like, yeah, probably. So we went on the bike ride. It was probably like a 12-mile bike ride, probably one of the longer bike rides I'd ever done at that point of my life. I was only 11 years old, and I made it through it. But actually, funny story, you remember the Goldwing?
Yeah.
So we had Clint's trainer. His name was Mike, I think, right?
I told this story actually.
You did?
Yeah, to some of the guys at the lake. I think it was 2 days ago.
Yeah, it was my first ever bike ride, and so Clint's just go left out of MTF. You go through the first stop sign and then take every right, and until you get back to Bold Springs Road. If I got dropped, because I was probably gonna get dropped, and because we're going on a bike ride. I mean, Barsha was on it. He's a beast on a bicycle. Free. There's a lot of really good A B guys that were at MTF, and so I get dropped on the first road. I turn right at where I was supposed to turn right. I'm
the first road.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to make sure I heard that correctly.
First road, turn right. I'm going down there and I see everyone stopped at the stop sign. I'm like, oh, all right, cool. They're waiting on me, because I didn't think they were gonna wait on me. So I pull up. And Colleen's Goldwing is in the ditch. And so back then, we'd go on bike rides, and at that point, Mike was the gym, the helper,
he did jiu-jitsu as well.
Yeah, he did jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu.
And he I guess apparently he came flying past the group at 90 miles an hour, and it was a little curve and it had some hay in it in the turn, and he washed the front coming around the curve. Ends up in the ditch I don't know how much a Goldwing is, but it was a nice motorcycle, and ends up in the ditch, and I pull up. I had no idea. Everyone's just dying laughing. I had no idea what happened, and I guess he was you because he taught jiu-jitsu and he'd teach us how to roll. Thought we could roll out of crashes and stuff, and he's like, you see how I rolled out of that? Not a scratch on me. He's a little crazy. He is a crazy guy, but yeah. And he didn't. I think he didn't tell Colleen that he crashed a Goldwing until she found out the mirror was broken. There's a couple scratches, and then after that, I think we had a little 50cc scooter to follow on the bike.
Yeah, I don't think. Obviously he said 90 mile an hour, but
I don't know
going that fast because literally it broke the mirror.
Yeah, and the stop sign.
Scratches,
the stop sign was 300.
And those bikes are huge. If you wadded that thing up, it'd catch an edge or something.
Yeah, I don't know how fast he's going, but
they were probably going 18, maybe 15, and he went flying by him at 25.
Yeah, maybe, but maybe it was But that I was only 11, 12-mile bike ride. I did it.
Yeah, but that's riding a bicycle. I'm telling you, you made it as a professional athlete. You can't put yourself in the average 10-year-old
till your daughter's
pool.
Our daughters are 6 years old, and you tell me that they can't run 4 miles. We'll see. We'll touch back on this in about 5-6 years.
Yeah. Okay. But I stand by what I said. The 10-year-olds that I know in my life, my little cousins or my friends' kids or whoever I'm talking about, the average 10-year-old cannot just go out and run 4 miles.
The average 10-year-old motocrosser can run 4 miles.
But that's what I'm saying, is the people that come here and train, they can do things that normal 10-year-olds can't. And I think that deserves some appreciation, just from myself, because there's kids here that
From yourself to yourself?
From myself to myself, it deserves some appreciation. I'm damn good at my job.
There you are.
Yeah. But, most kids don't want to do it every day to the extent that we do it, right? Like
No.
when you're, like you said, at 11, what you were thrown into, you're still more mature than you were at 9, or 10. You were almost 12, and you were a little ahead of the game. I would say most of the kids we didn't bring in till 11 or 12. You were right at that age. Savachi was kind of right at that age, 65 to 85, and same with Barsha.
Yep.
That was kind of the youngest we went for a long time. Now we have a couple that are a little younger, but, Colleen's beliefs are, not only that, like you said, you had to leave your dad. She's a big believer in, trying not to split up the family that young, because you're a kid, right? You're 7, 8, because some people start training at 7, 8 years old. Even to another kid wanted to come in, and she's like, man, I can't do that, to you as a family, because who's gonna come, and then the brother's gonna be away from the sister, and there's just a lot of things that at a young age I think is hard to invest so much. When if you wait till you're 11 or 12, I think that's plenty of time to be fully invested into a facility and a full-time training, and you go much before that, you might be burned out by the time you turn 15 or 16.
Well, not to mention, when you look at a younger kid and you're trying to decide if they have what it takes to make it, and you make these big decisions that separate families, and there's moms that don't get to really see their son for 2-3 years out of their life because they send him away to go train or what have you. The kid gets to 15 and decides he wants to quit. Okay, well, I hope you're grateful for the lack of memories, or, I hope he's grateful for the experience. He might not be because he didn't make it, but, when you're trying to decide to make those big decisions based off such young kids, it has to be extra tough, because if they end up not making it, how do you look back at that time? Do you look back with regret, or are you, well, we tried?
Yeah.
I don't know. Either way. All right. I feel like we have to talk about this, because it wouldn't be a podcast with Jordon Smith if we didn't talk about it. In the middle of the season, there was some drama with one of your teammates, and it had a certain social media reaction. Do you have any thoughts on the incident with Haiden? It blew up a lot on social media. I mean, there's so many ways that I could ask you about this, but I just kind of want to, basically for those that maybe haven't heard, which you have heard, Jordon and Haiden came together. Jordon went down, ended up in the LCQ, and then rode absolutely out of his mind, full sending. It almost got into the main, missed the main, give it like 20 minutes, and then social media just blew up, and half were Deegan's side, half were Jordan's side, and it was just crazy. Tell me a little bit about that experience with social media.
I mean, social media now is just like, it's a hard place to like be on too much, especially like if you do something for someone to have an opinion one way or the other about, because there's gonna be like both sides every time,
and neither are gonna be that well informed.
And I mean, it is what it is. Like, it happens. It's no one like was in either of our shoes, other than us. So it's I don't
Do you look back on it with a different perspective now that you're a little further removed? Because like when it happened, it'd be pretty hard to not be pretty worked up, in your mind, even before you get to see any replays or anything. Like, you're thinking, my teammate took me out and I didn't make the race.
Yeah.
I mean, you never really blamed.
I don't necessarily know that he took me out. I kind of took myself out at the end of the day.
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, I mean, it definitely, it wasn't cool in my opinion. Still, is not cool. But I mean, it happens. He's a rookie. Like I don't know.
And I feel like they talk about it a little bit with the way that he's riding now, like against Hunter, playing the little cat and mouse, looking behind
I think that, like, honestly, like, for me, one of the biggest things that, like, bothered me was, like, on social media, whenever people, like, I posted about, like, a post and I didn't say anything about the incident or anything, and, like, I never blamed him for any of it. Like, I said in other interviews, like I said here, like, I took myself out, like, I still had a chance to make the main, and I crashed again, still had a chance to make the LCQ or make it out of the LCQ. I stalled it, and then, rode the best I could to miss it by one spot. But was that, like, people, like you said, that aren't informed, or, they don't want to really take into consideration, like, what I've said or what anyone said. We're like, oh, just keep blaming it on Deegan. Like, I never blamed it on him. Like, I never did one time. So it just, I mean, social media is like, I mean, if you see anything, it's like you're either all the way here or you're all the way here. There's, like, not much in between, But then, like, you talk to, like, people that are in the industry and stuff, and, like, they're way more, like, your friends or, like, people that know what they're way more, like, in the middle about it, or, like, they have a way better opinion about it and stuff. So whether they're on one side or the other, but at the end of the day, like, it happened. Like, I let my emotions get the best of me, like, in that situation, I had to like to learn from it, like I said earlier, like, I feel like I'm in my second year pro, not my 8th or 9th year pro, like, it had been a long time since I've been in a battle like that, or been in a situation like that. I have been in situations where I'm battling someone and block past them or this and that, but it had been years since I really been in a battle like that. Even, like, throughout the year, like, up until that point, like, I had either pretty much made a pass, like, clean and no retaliation from anyone, or I had just stayed where I was at, like, I hadn't really went backwards and had to get past much, and I hadn't really battled anyone too hard. So it really caught me off guard. Like, it caught me off guard. I didn't expect it to come. What happened, had no idea that it was going to happen, and it did, but it just, you just have to learn from it.
I think anybody that is in your shoes would be mad about it because of the outcome, right?
Yeah.
It could have easily, like he said, he took himself out, and he wasn't really expecting, when we talked about it, he wasn't expecting Haiden to cut over like that quick. He was actually going to probably take Haiden out, right? Like, or at least probably hit him decently hard, right? So it could have easily went the other way, and not saying you wouldn't have got, bashed on social media if you took him out anyway, right? Yeah. But, you let your emotions get to you, and you got the bad end of it because you went down, right? So it could have easily, with maybe a few feet different, exiting the turn or getting another wheel, the outcome could have been totally different, and you both could have been down or whatever it may have been,
And really, the only reason that I even bring it up is just because it was really the first time that somebody had really, ruffled his feathers, and it was just kind of like a big deal that happened. It was one of the things that, like, the broadcast picked up on and hammered, and it got to the point where, like, it wasn't even your Coast Racing, and they were still talking about it. And it's wild to see what can happen, because, like, it doesn't matter. It wasn't a big deal. You moved on. He moved on.
It was a big deal. I mean, I didn't make the main, so
that part was a
pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But the whole thing with, the social media drama, when you have somebody like him who brings such an audience from YouTube, and they all have a lot of Instagram followers, and they're all just Team Deegan, and then you come in there and try to burst his happy little bubble, and then social media just blows up, and, like, it was just such a rare sighting, and to see it, because even just from the negative stuff, you still got, like, a few thousand bump in followers or something, right? I mean, it just, It was so many eyeballs on you all of a sudden for what seemed like not a very big deal.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, and like you said, it was a big deal, but it wasn't a big deal. It blew up. People started saying, and then, I think it blew over in time, but there will be times when that social media following, can turn on you as well, right? Like, people love Justin Barcia, but at times they can, really bash him, the people that follow him and things like that, Sometimes they love the bumps, and then other times they're going to, not like it so much. So it's just going to be kind of what their perspective is and what they like, and you'll probably always have people on both ends of it, I think, and you just got to, stick with who you are, what you do, and move on.
Well, whether or not anybody, whether or not they admit it, there's a lot of people that watch a guy like Haiden just to see him do poorly. There's a lot of people that tune in to, because they want him to fail. Whether or not that's right or wrong, it's not really for me to say. But
no, and there's a lot of people that want him to succeed, right? Because they think he works hard. So I think there's both ends on anything. Same with Jordon. There's going to be people that don't want him to succeed for whatever reason, and there's going to be people that want him to. I think that's on everyone.
The social media stuff too. Like whenever anything in comments and that kind of stuff, like as and not even just from me, but like I've seen someone like so many times, like if someone comments on Instagram like a picture or something, like say you had a bad race, and they put a post about it, and this guy comments in there like, oh, you suck, you should just give up, or like just something like that,
Yeah.
And that person comments back something like, all right, man, like I try my best, whatever. The guy, like almost every time, not every time, but almost every time, that person that originally commented like the super negative thing goes, oh man, you're great, like just keep grinding, like
there was something specific with you.
Maybe it probably has. Yeah, I think it has. But like not just me. Like I've seen it on so many different, like on Twitter, on Instagram, like so many different things where like this person will like just completely like say the worst thing, and then it's like, oh man, I didn't mean that. Like like they're just like looking for a reaction, and that's just what social media is. Like it's they can hide behind a keyboard. It's not reality. Like even though it is such a huge part of our lives now, social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everything. It's like a huge part of being an athlete and all this thing that you have to take it seriously. But at the end of the day, like it's not reality with the fans. Like they would never come up to you and say, like I've never ever had someone come up to me at a race and say something negative like that. Ever.
And I think what you said, like they're probably looking for a response and maybe from other people.
Yeah.
And then when the person actually responds, like, oh man. Yeah. Like this person actually saw it, and I think sometimes people, oh, he's a professional athlete. He probably doesn't even see his own Instagram. He doesn't even look at it, but you're actually a human being as well.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, what? Like,
I think a lot of times
I just want to delete. I'm going to delete you. Like, why are you following me? If I just had a bad race, I just crashed. Like, it sucks for me. Like, I'm bummed on my day, and then you just basically hit me with, you might as well quit and, basically kill yourself.
You followed me and found a video of me just so you could comment something negative and try to put me down.
Yeah. And I'm already down on the day.
Yeah. Appreciate it, man.
It's funny because, like, people, like, my friends and my wife, like, they get more worked up over that stuff than I do most. Like, how I'm, like, me and Brian are pretty much the same whenever it comes to this. But, like, it's pretty hard to, like, really get under our skin or get us too worked up. And like that stuff doesn't really get to me too much. I'm like, I mean, he kind of's got a valid point whenever, like sometimes or whatever. Yeah. But I'm like, yeah, I mean, I do crash a lot. Like, like he's got a right to say it. But no, but it's funny because like some other people get more worked up than I do about it.
Like, Luis is the same way. If I say something like somebody commented, she'll be like, fired up.
Yeah, I want to comment back and stuff. Like, it's fine.
I mean, you've been getting better at it,
Yeah, I ignore comments a lot better than I used to because you just know.
I think that one thing like that a lot of people like, they don't realize or whatever is that like no one. I mean, they do realize it deep down, but like whenever you're a fan of something, and like I know I'm a fan of a lot of sports, a lot of other sports other than motocross, and like you're watching someone. And I think I have a better perspective of this because I am a professional athlete, but like no one wants to do better for you than yourself. Like I want to win so bad. And like everything that I've done throughout my career is to try and win races, a championship. Like, yeah, I've won a couple races. I've never won a championship. I've been close. And there's so many things that someone from the outside looking in can be like, why did you do this? Why did you do that? But like, I'm doing it because I'm trying my best. Like, like maybe some decisions that I've made in races is because I want to win, and I want to do the best I can. And, and people sometimes don't understand that. But
yeah, and it's happening so fast, right? Like, that it's hard. It's easy to slow it down and look at it and do it differently, right? Like, we always talk about that, yes, I can look back. Yeah, that was a bad move, but how long I can look at it, I can evaluate it, I can, you should have done this or this, and you try to learn from that moving forward. But in the moment, obviously, you weren't trying to make that happen.
Yeah.
Same with, I cut my pinky off, right? My dad's response was, "Why was your finger there?" I can look back and yes, do it way differently, and I wouldn't have had that, but in the moment, that's what I thought was needing to be done, and it didn't work out for me.
Yeah.
Looking back, I didn't want to go to the hospital that day. I didn't want to get shots in my butt. I didn't want to get my finger sewn back on, or, to my dad, he clearly thought like, that's what I want. I'm like, hey, that's what I wanted to do today. I didn't want to train, so I want to go to the hospital instead.
I think too, from a social media standpoint, like a lot of times, like, I get a lot of hate on social media about, being hurt all the time and this and that. But like a lot of times, like, they don't even show what happened. Like, if you get hurt, like, on the broadcast, or like our sport is so like tight about injuries and that stuff. Like, you don't explain what happened at practice, or like you don't see what happened in the race. Like, maybe they didn't get on camera, or like it just happened so quick, so like, oh, he's hurt again, like he can't stay healthy. It's like, well, stuff happens, like that's out of your control. Look at Fortner in Dallas last year, whenever he got together with Jet, and Jet came out of it fine, and Fortner's hurt, and everyone's like, oh, Fortner can't stay healthy. It's like, well, that had nothing to do with, like, there's nothing he could have done there that changed that outcome other than let Jet around him, and who's going to let Jet around, like it's just not how it's going to happen, and it's just fans, they see what they see, and that's all it is.
Listen, they know the sport better than you do.
Yeah, not all the fans. Like, that's just like mainly like the keyboard warriors. Like, you have so many. You go to the races, and like I said, at the races, like, everyone wants to see you do good. Like, everyone is there, like, telling you good luck, good job, whatever it is. Like, they want to see you do good. But you just have these people on social media that just, they don't want to see that. And anyone has it. Haiden has plenty of hate. I have plenty of hate. Jet has plenty of hate. Like, there's so, like, no one.
And it's in every sport, right? Golfing, when a guy has,
it's in everything in the world.
He has the lead for, going into the last 3 holes, and he makes a couple mistakes and he choked, right?
Yeah.
If he made those mistakes in 40th or 50th, it would have been no big deal. They're not saying he choked. He just was in 40th or 50th, Same guy, same situation. It takes one little mistake to make a bad outcome in a golf hole, or one little thing on a supercross track, and the outcome is bad. It's not necessarily that you choked. It just happened at the wrong time, and it happened.
Yep. It's unfortunate because you remember the negative way more than the positive. For every 10 people that cheer for you, there's one person that's saying something negative, you tend to remember the negative more, which is just, being human, and it sucks. And will it change with social media? Probably not. But what can change is how we handle it, and that's why I don't respond to comments anymore. I was bad about it, dude, because it gets me fired up. It's like, you have no context, you have no expertise in the field. Why do you think you're qualified to tell me about what I'm having my guys do? Just stay off. But you can't. People don't come to social media to have their minds changed. They want to say their piece, be completely unchallenged on it, and then go about their day.
If you respond with facts, it's just going to get you more fired up, because they're probably going to respond with something that you feel is even, more uneducated or dumb, and then you're just going to get fired up, and you're going to look like the bad guy because you're arguing with somebody on social media.
I know, like, I got an argument with, like, her name was Moto Mom.
Got an argument with
That was a low point for me.
Come on.
Low point in your training career.
Yes.
It's only on the way up.
We're only moving up from now on. I'm getting better about it. Okay, so before we wrap up, hey, if you ride dirt bikes and you don't want to be as tired when you do it, we have online training. You can basically, like, if you look at what we do, we ride 4 days a week. We train in the gym, sometimes 6 days a week. If you hope to be competitive, like, we're your competition. And if you want to compete with us, you either have to hop on the train or you're going to get left behind, right? So if you need some guidance, coming up with gym programs is tough. Coming up with track training programs is tough. We have basically taken what we do here at MTF. We put it online. We made it into a really easy-to-use training app. We have gym programs, track training programs. We do live Q&A sessions so you can talk to Brian and I as your personal coaches. It's really cool. We're building a cool community, and we really believe in this training. So if that's something you're interested in, I always have links in the show notes. It'll be in the description of the YouTube video. Reach out to us if you have any questions. Brian, anything to add about the online training?
Just thanks, Jordan, for coming, and, I didn't know that.
Well, you think I'm just going to plug? And
I thought you were just going to say anything.
I was going to end it?
Yeah, I was just already ready to answer your question, and then you added those last 2 words. But.
Well, anything else to add about, the online
No,
training?
I mean, you need to start, the soon. We talk about this all the time, people, even whether it's online or training or, whatever it is, it's easy to say you'll start that next week, you'll start that next month, it's more convenient this time of year, the longer you wait, it just kind of, the years roll on top of each other and then it becomes too late, right? So don't wait, if you can't train with us, you need to start doing something because it gets earlier and earlier that people are starting to work harder and harder, so you got to have something that is consistent and it's not easy, right? It never, we work with some people and they're like, well, I'm doing this, so it's kind of hard, to train full time and make it work around anything you do is not convenient, right? But if you want to be good at something, you have to have a little bit of inconvenience in your life to make that work. You said that, Jordan said that even about his life, his parents, everybody's life had a little bit of inconvenience to make him where he is today, so when you start training and you start taking on something full time, there's going to be inconvenience and it's not going to be easy, and there's going to be days that you feel like you're dead tired, but to get to somewhere, in the top of anything, there has to be an inconvenience, I think.
Yeah, I mean, when you're busy and when it's least convenient, that's when you should start. Because if you wait until you're not busy to start, you're basically saying to yourself that if I get busy, then I'm going to quit. And that's no way to operate. It's no way to bring consistency and actually see progress. So you should start when you're busy. That's the best time.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, I can honestly say this has been my favorite conversation we've had on the podcast so far. It was a lot of fun, talking about everything you've been through with MTF. So, Jordan, can't thank you enough for being on. Hopefully we can get you to come on again one of these days.
Yep.
In your busy schedule with your swimming
schedule.
and,
The beach.
Yeah, there's a lot of information, and I think the next time you could even hone in on more, detailed things we can pick up some different things and bring up some incidences, that happen when you were racing and injuries, and talk a little bit more in depth on some other things as well.
Oh yeah, we could have something just like the Jordon Smith podcast. That could be its own show.
I wouldn't go that far.
I don't know. He's been through a lot. Has a lot of experiences, good and bad. So lots to share with us. So thanks again for being on. Anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
No, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks you guys for listening and watching, and we will see you in the next episode.
All right, see you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the MX Mastery Podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a rating and review on the platform you're listening on. This helps the podcast find other people that are just as passionate about moto as we are. I'll see you guys in the next episode.